Picture this. You're sitting at your kitchen table on a Saturday morning. Maybe you've got a cup of coffee in your hand. You pull up your bank account, your credit cards, your investment accounts if you have any, and you start doing some mental math. You add up everything you've spent in the last 2 years. And somewhere between the third scroll and the pit forming in your stomach, you realize something that genuinely makes you feel a little sick. You've spent $50,000. Not on a house, not on building a business, not on anything you can actually point to and say, there it is, that's what I bought. No, you spent $50,000 and you have absolutely nothing to show for it. No asset, no equity, no passive income stream, just receipts. Digital receipts mostly, which somehow makes it worse because you can't even burn them dramatically in your fireplace. And I know what you're thinking. 50,000? That's not me. I'd notice if I spent 50 grand. But here's the thing. You probably wouldn't, because $50,000 doesn't disappear in one giant explosion. It leaks out, slowly, over months and years, in $300 increments here, $500 charges there, $12 subscriptions you forgot you even signed up for. And before you know it, you've hemorrhaged an amount of money that could have fundamentally changed your life, and instead it bought you a slightly more comfortable present that you can barely even remember. My name is Ben, and I spend way too much time thinking about what money actually buys us. Not in the obvious sense, not the sticker price. I mean what it really purchases in terms of freedom, options, security, and trajectory. If you're someone who feels like money just evaporates from your accounts without anything meaningful to show for it, or if you've ever wondered why some people seem to get ahead while you're stuck running on a financial treadmill, hit subscribe and give this video a thumbs up, because what I'm about to break down is going to fundamentally change how you look at every single dollar that passes through your hands. Let's talk about what $50,000 really buys you. And I promise, it's not what you think. Now look, I'm not here to lecture you about avocado toast. That narrative is played out, and frankly, it was never accurate to begin with. The reason most people stay broke has nothing to do with lattes and everything to do with a fundamental misunderstanding of what money actually represents. See, most people view money as a medium of exchange. You have $10, you trade it for a sandwich, transaction complete. And on a surface level, that's technically correct. But here's what most people don't realize. Money isn't just a medium of exchange. Money is crystallized time. Money is stored options. Money is future freedom compressed into a number in your bank account. And when you truly internalize that shift, when you actually feel it in your bones, it changes everything about how you make financial decisions. So let's do some math together, because I think the numbers here are genuinely shocking. The median American household makes roughly $60,000 per year after taxes, give or take, depending on your state and situation. That means after necessities, after rent or mortgage, after food and transportation and insurance, and all the things you literally cannot avoid paying for, the average person might have, let's be generous here, $15,000 to $20,000 per year of true discretionary income, money that could go anywhere, money that represents pure choice. Now, $50,000, which is the number we're talking about today, represents somewhere between 2.5 to 3 years of that discretionary income, 3 years of choices, 3 years of every optional dollar you earn. That's what we're talking about when we talk about 50 grand. And when you frame it that way, suddenly the question becomes a lot more serious. What are you actually buying with 3 years of your financial freedom? Here's what most people buy. And this is going to be uncomfortable, but stay with me. The average American spends about $12,000 per year on non-essential purchases, stuff they want but don't need. Over 4 years, that's $48,000, basically 50 grand. Now, what does that typically look like? It's $500 a month on dining out and takeout above what you'd spend cooking at home. It's $300 on subscriptions and streaming services and apps and gym memberships you don't use. It's the Amazon purchases at 2 in the morning when you're bored and scrolling. It's upgrading your phone every year when your current one works perfectly fine. It's buying new clothes when your closet is already full. It's the random Target runs where you walk in for toothpaste and walk out with $200 of stuff in a red cart. And I'm not saying any individual purchase is wrong. I'm really not. What I am saying is that when you zoom out and look at the aggregate, when you realize that over 3 or 4 years you've spent the equivalent of a down payment on a house, or seed capital for a business, or a fully funded retirement account on things you can't even remember buying, that should give you pause. That should make you at least question whether your spending is aligned with what you actually want out of life. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Ben, but that's what money is for, right? To spend on things that make life enjoyable? What's the point of earning money if you can't even use it? And look, that's a fair objection. I actually agree with the underlying philosophy. Money should be spent on things that bring genuine value to your life. The problem is, and this is where it gets interesting, most spending doesn't actually do that. There's a psychological study from Cornell that found people are significantly happier spending money on experiences than on physical possessions. And even more interestingly, they found that anticipation of an experience actually provides more happiness than the experience itself in many cases. So the trip you're planning brings you more joy than the actual trip. The concert you're excited about delivers most of its psychological value in the weeks before you attend. But here's the kicker. Most of our spending isn't on meaningful experiences. It's on convenience. It's on marginal upgrades. It's on things we buy to temporarily feel better about problems we're not actually addressing. And that kind of spending, the unconscious kind, the emotional kind, the kind you do on autopilot, that's what adds up to $50,000 of absolutely nothing. Let me give you a concrete example. Let's say you spend $30 per week on impulse purchases. Nothing crazy. A random book you won't read, a kitchen gadget you'll use twice, a sale item that was too good to pass up. $30 a week. That's $1,560 per year. Over 30 years, which is basically a standard working career, that's $46,800. But here's where the math gets genuinely painful. If you had invested that $30 per week instead, at historical stock market returns of around 10% annually, you'd have approximately $250,000, $250,000, from the random stuff, from the things you bought without even thinking about it, from purchases you can't even remember making. This is what I mean when I say $50,000 isn't $50,000. $50,000 isn't just $50,000. It's the seed of a much larger sum. It's the foundation of financial freedom that you're either building or burning one transaction at a time. But here's the thing, and this is crucial. I don't want you to become some sort of financial hermit who never spends money on anything enjoyable. That's a miserable way to live, and it's actually not optimal from a pure money perspective either. Studies show that extreme frugality leads to burnout and what researchers call restriction fatigue, where you eventually snap and blow way more money than you would have if you just allowed yourself reasonable pleasures along the way. The goal here isn't deprivation. The goal is intentionality. So let me walk you through what $50,000 could actually buy you if you spent it strategically. And these aren't hypotheticals. These are real options that real people execute on every single day. Option 1. $50,000 is a 20% down payment on a $250,000 property. Now, depending on where you live, that might not get you a mansion, but it could absolutely get you a starter home or a duplex or a small multifamily property that you house hack. You live in one unit, rent out the others, and suddenly someone else is paying your mortgage. In many markets, this means your housing cost goes to zero or near zero. Think about that. Your single biggest monthly expense eliminated. The average American spends about a third of their income on housing. If you eliminate or drastically reduce that expense, you've effectively given yourself a 30% raise for the rest of your life. That's what $50,000 can buy you. Housing security, financial freedom in your 60s, the option to stop working not because you have to, but because you want to. Option 3. $50,000 is approximately what you need to max out a Roth IRA for 7 years at current contribution limits. If you're in your 20s or 30s and you put 50 grand into a Roth IRA over 7 years and then you never contribute another dime, just leave it alone. By the time you're 60, assuming historical market returns, that money grows to somewhere between $500,000 and $700,000, tax-free. You'll never pay taxes on that growth. That's what $50,000 can buy you. Retirement security, financial freedom in your 60s, the option to stop working not because you have to, but because you want to. Option 4.
$50,000 is enough startup capital to launch dozens of different business models: an e-commerce store, a consulting practice, a service-based business, a content creation operation. With 50 grand, you can cover initial inventory, equipment, marketing, legal formation, and operating expenses for the first year of a real business that could potentially replace or exceed your salary. The statistics here are interesting. About 20% of small businesses fail in the first year, which sounds scary until you realize that means 80% survive. And of those that make it past year 5, the average owner makes significantly more than the median American household income. $50,000 could buy you a shot at that. Option 5, and this is the one most people overlook entirely. $50,000 is approximately 2 years of living expenses for the average person living modestly, which means $50,000 could buy you 2 years of time. Time to write a book, time to build a side business without pressure, time to caretake for a family member, time to deal with a health issue, time to figure out what you actually want to do with your life instead of desperately clinging to a job you hate because you have zero financial runway.
Time is the most valuable asset any of us have, and most people sell every minute of it to employers because they spend all their money on things they can't even name. Now here's where this gets psychological, and I think this is the part most people struggle with. We all know, on some level, that spending money on dumb stuff is not smart. This isn't revolutionary information. You've heard it before. Your parents probably told you something similar. So why do we keep doing it? Why does this behavior persist even when we intellectually understand it's working against us? The answer is dopamine, and it's more insidious than you think. Every purchase you make triggers a dopamine response in your brain. That little hit of pleasure, that momentary feeling of, I got something, I acquired a thing. And our brains are wired to chase dopamine because for most of human evolution, that response was attached to actually useful behaviors like finding food or securing shelter. But the modern economy has figured out how to hijack that system. Every notification, every sale, every only 2 left in stock message, every one-click purchase option is designed to separate you from your money by exploiting how your brain works. You're not weak-willed if you struggle with spending. You're up against billions of dollars of research specifically engineered to make you spend. So what's the solution? How do you fight back against your own brain chemistry and a multi-trillion-dollar consumer apparatus that wants your money? Here's a strategy that actually works. You need to make spending painful and saving automatic. Let me explain. Right now, spending is frictionless. You can buy almost anything with a thumbprint and 2 seconds of effort. Meanwhile, saving requires active decisions, transfers, choosing investment accounts, all kinds of friction. We've got it exactly backwards. You need to flip the script. Step 1. Automate your savings and investments before you ever see the money. Set up automatic transfers on payday that move a predetermined percentage of your income directly into investment accounts, savings accounts, whatever your priority is. This money leaves your checking account before you even have a chance to spend it. It's not about willpower. It's about engineering your environment so willpower isn't required. Step 2. Add friction to spending. Delete shopping apps from your phone. Remove saved credit card information from websites. Institute a 48-hour rule where any purchase over $100 requires a 2-day waiting period before you buy. You'll be amazed how many things you thought you desperately needed at 9 p.m. no longer seem important 2 days later. Step 3. Track your spending for 1 month. Every single dollar. Use an app, use a spreadsheet, write it on paper. I don't care. Just track it. The awareness alone changes behavior. Studies show people who track spending reduce their discretionary purchases by 15 to 20% without any other intervention. Just seeing the numbers makes you reconsider. Step 4, and this is the big one, define what you actually want $50,000 to buy you. Write it down. Get specific. Is it a down payment? Is it a 2-year runway to start a business? Is it retirement security? Is it options you don't currently have? When you have a clear, compelling vision for what your money could become, the random purchases lose their power. That new pair of shoes isn't competing against having money versus not having money. It's competing against your specific dream. And when you frame it that way, the shoes usually lose. Here's the truth that nobody really wants to hear.
Most people will work their entire lives and never accumulate real wealth. Not because they didn't earn enough money. The median lifetime earnings for an American worker is somewhere around $2 million over a 40-year career. $2 million! But most people will earn $2 million and retire with almost nothing because they converted every dollar into lifestyle the moment it hit their account. They bought $50,000 worth of stuff over and over again for 40 years and ended up with a Social Security check and anxiety. But it doesn't have to be you. The difference between building wealth and treading water forever isn't income. It's awareness. It's understanding what money actually represents. It's being intentional about what you exchange your crystallized time for. $50,000 is not a car. $50,000 is not a year of lifestyle upgrades. $50,000 is not a pile of random purchases you won't remember in 3 years. $50,000 is a down payment on freedom. It's the compound interest of your future. It's options you don't currently have. It's time you could buy back. It's a trajectory change that echoes through decades. Every dollar you spend is a vote for the life you're building. Every purchase is a decision about who you're becoming. And when you start seeing money through that lens, when you start asking not what does this cost, but what is this costing me, everything changes. You are not behind. Even if you spent the last 10 years lighting money on fire, you're not behind, because the only moment that actually matters is this one. The next dollar you earn, the next decision you make, the next purchase you consider. That's where your financial future lives. Not in the past, not in regret, in the very next choice. So here's my challenge to you. For the next 90 days, track every dollar. Define one specific thing you want $50,000 to eventually buy you. Automate at least 15% of your income into savings or investments before you see it. Add friction to every unnecessary purchase and watch what happens. Watch how those little numbers in your account start growing instead of shrinking. Watch how it feels to actually have options, because that's what $50,000 really buys you. Not things, options, freedom, a different future. And once you understand that, you'll never look at spending the same way again. If this video shifted how you think about money even slightly, subscribe and hit the notification bell because I drop videos like this every week. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And I'll see you in the next one.